transfer window, as good as it is for transactional reasons, and it allows you to then, what clubs then know is you've got money in your back pocket to spend, and then there's a bit of a tax put on top of it. So there's arguments for selling early and arguments for selling it, but I think they got their fingers burned massively last summer with Isak's situation, panicking at the end of the window, bringing in Wissa and Voltemad, with hours to go of the window, and they don't want that to overpaying for players as well. They don't want that to happen again, so they just feel getting their ducks in order early gives them a much better chance, and that's why I don't see the Bruno Guimarães thing dragging on. I think if he is to go to Arsenal, Newcastle would prefer it's done earlier. They do not want to sell, though. They're desperate to keep him here. If Arsenal finally come to the table, which they haven't done yet, they've not made an official bid, if Arsenal do come to the table and make an acceptable offer to Newcastle, and I think that would be at least beginning with an 8, I think Newcastle there would be a decision to make. I think they've got a problem. I think if Arsenal come to the table and offer £85 million, Bruno's already said he'd like to explore an opportunity to Arsenal, I think they've got a decision. But if the numbers they're discussing are 50, 60, I'm saying they're discussing Arsenal, haven't even spoken to Newcastle, but indirectly through intermediaries, if it's 50, 60, there's no deal. There's no deal. It's going to have to be significantly higher for Newcastle to sit up and take notice. They do not want to lose him, but once a player has told the club he wants to go, and if a big offer comes in, it's really hard to stop that happening.
We don't want to lose our best players. That's, I think, an obvious statement to make. So losing those big two is painful for us and difficult. So for me, it's been another challenging summer so far. But we're always trying to do our best for the football club, short and long term, and try and get the squad in its best shape.
It definitely looks like a change in the model this summer in terms of the profile of the players you're bringing in.
Yeah, I'm very supportive of what the club want to do. There's been a shift in terms of the profile and the age. I think that's quite obvious. I've always believed in young players and tried to develop young players, so that fits in line with my philosophy anyway.
And so much being said, externally about Bruno Guimarães and his situation at the club. Have you spoken to him, and what is the current situation there? Yeah,
I've spoken to him as I would do Bruno normally. He's just a fantastic person. We've had some really good conversations, both sort of before the World Cup, during the World Cup, and after the World Cup. So what we speak about obviously has to remain private, but just a great player, a great person. And what was the second part that you asked then?
Are you confident you'll be able to hold on to him? I don't think I said that, but I'm just adding that.
Oh, okay, sorry. Maybe I
gave me a chance there.
Second question. Look, I don't know what's going to happen with Bruno's future. That's for other people to speculate about, but also conversations that I'm not part of.
Arsenal's pursuit of Bruno Guimarães may have just reached the moment every supporter has been waiting for, because this is no longer only about Arsenal wanting the player. Bruno is understood to want Arsenal too. Sky Sports News has reported that the Newcastle captain has told his club he would like to join the Premier League champions if an acceptable offer arrives. Arsenal have explored the conditions of a deal through intermediaries, while Newcastle insist their captain is not for sale and have been frustrated by the lack of direct club-to-club contact. That sounds like a transfer standoff, but behind those public positions, the pressure is building. Bruno is not a player Newcastle can replace easily. He is their captain, their emotional leader, and the midfielder who connects almost everything they do. He receives the ball under pressure, carries it through midfield, wins duels, and gives the team personality when matches become difficult. That is exactly why Arsenal want him. Mikel Arteta already has technical quality, control, and discipline in midfield. What Bruno could add is edge, the aggression to dominate a physical Premier League match, and the confidence to demand the ball when the game begins to turn chaotic. Imagine Bruno alongside Declan Rice with Martin Ødegaard, creating ahead of them. Rice could protect the defence and attack space. Ødegaard could operate closer to goal. Bruno could move between both phases, helping Arsenal play through pressure before stepping forward to hurt the opposition. On paper, it looks like a midfield built to control England and challenge Europe. But there is one major obstacle. Newcastle do not want to sell. Sky Sports has suggested it could take more than £80 million to make them seriously consider a deal. Other reports claim negotiations have advanced around a package worth more than £75 million, although Newcastle sources have continued to deny that a formal offer has been received. And that creates the first major twist. Arsenal may be closer to Bruno personally than they are to Newcastle financially. The player's preference can help. It could stop another club from gaining an advantage and make Arsenal the destination he is prepared to wait for. But preference alone does not complete a transfer. Andrea Berta still has to decide how far Arsenal should go. Do they pay the premium for one of the Premier League's most complete midfielders, or do they walk away before Newcastle turn the deal into an auction? The timing makes the situation even more dramatic. Newcastle have already experienced a summer of enormous change, and uncertainty around the club has increased following Eddie Howe's departure. Losing the captain as well would send another shock through St James Park. That could make Newcastle even more determined to keep him, or it could force the club to make a clean decision and begin a completely new era. And here comes another twist. If Newcastle believe Bruno has emotionally chosen Arsenal, keeping him against his preference could create an unwanted transfer story throughout the opening weeks of the season. But selling him would mean watching their captain strengthen the team that has just won the Premier League. For Arsenal, this is not simply another squad signing. They are champions now. The question is no longer whether they are good enough to compete for the title. The question is how they remain ahead while every rival is trying to catch them. Bruno would arrive as a proven Premier League midfielder, not a development project requiring 2 seasons to adapt. He understands the speed of English football. He knows what hostile away grounds feel like. He has carried responsibility, led a dressing room, and lifted Newcastle's first domestic trophy in 70 years as their captain. But signing him would also create difficult decisions. Where would Rice play every week? Would Ødegaard retain the same creative freedom? Which established midfielder would lose minutes? And would spending more than £80 million on Bruno reduce the money available for the superstar attacker Arsenal are also searching for? That is the real debate. Bruno may appear almost perfect for Arteta's football, but even the perfect player can become the wrong deal at the wrong price. Arsenal must decide whether his leadership, experience, and immediate impact are worth breaking through Newcastle's resistance, because the next move cannot come from the player. Bruno has reportedly made his preference clear. The next move must come from Arsenal. A serious official offer would prove this pursuit is more than admiration. Continued silence would suggest the club is protecting its budget, exploring alternatives and waiting for Newcastle's position to weaken. And every day Arsenal wait creates another question. Could Newcastle's new manager convince Bruno to stay? Could another European giant enter the race? Or could Arsenal suddenly move, agree the fee, and complete one of the most powerful Premier League transfers of the summer? So, Arsenal supporters, what would you do? Would you pay more than £80 million to create a midfield featuring Bruno, Rice and Ødegaard? Or would you use that money on a world-class attacker and trust the midfield that already delivered the title? Because Bruno Guimarães, wanting Arsenal, may have opened the door, but only Andrea Berta and Arsenal can decide whether to walk through it, and their next move could determine whether this becomes the signing that establishes a new era of dominance, or simply another blockbuster transfer Arsenal allowed to escape.